longing, and you keep me waiting and waiting, and I to the point where I just want to choke you. And Dominique is just consumed with sexual desire and frustration. Notice even after that, Roark makes her wait. It's 3 more days before he comes to her room. Dominique's in her bedroom. You really feel for her. If you understand the book, you feel for her. She thinks she will, quote, try to sleep. Anybody who's ever been consumed with sexual frustration knows how hard it is to sleep. She'll try to sleep. She puts the cool perfume on her forehead to try and, get some relief from it. She's burning up. Finally, after all this time, Roark comes. Now, here's the good question. This is Dominique's triumph. What she's wanted so desperately for weeks now. She's worked to set this up. And now, in the moment of her triumph, she resists. And that's the question. And that's why you need to understand Dominique's character. There's the same. Why does Dominique resist Roark in the moment of her triumph? Is a variation on a theme of in form. It's the same question. Why does she destroy the Greek statuette? Why does she join forces with Toohey in an anti-Roark alliance? Why does she fight against her or attempt to destroy her greatest values? It's part of what makes Dominique such a fascinating character. And the answer is this. It's true that Dominique doesn't yet know who Roark is. As far as she knows consciously, he may just be an ex-convict granite quarry worker. But people, especially someone like Dominique, who's so sensitive, you pick up things about people at the subconscious level, not just at the conscious level. And Dominique recognizes from the start that Roark is a special person. By the way, this is what makes Dominique such an exquisite character, and why I fell in love with her the first time I read The Fountainhead. So don't say anything bad about Dominique. Because she meets Roark at the absolute lowest ebb of his career. He's nobody at this point. He's been rejected by society. He's working in a granite quarry. It's hot. He's down below the ground in a pit. The symbolism is unmistakable. He's in hell. As far as she knows, he could be an ex-con. And yet to Dominique, it's love at first sight. She knows immediately, that this is an extraordinary man. By the way he holds himself, his carriage, his posture, the way he looks at her, what Aristotle say, the eyes are the windows of the soul. The way he looks at her, she could tell immediately, this person is special. I remember she says later at Kiki Holcomb's party, where ostensibly she's meeting him for the first time, and Kiki Holcomb asks her, what'd you think of that new one, that Roark? And Dominique says, I don't know how anybody could stand such unbridled arrogance. I can't think of anything good to say about him except that, he's terribly good looking, if that matters. And she thinks that's just the most obvious thing. It's just a throwaway remark. It's just the most obvious thing that Roark, and she thinks in her mind, the very words, you can go back and check in the text, the very words she thinks in her mind is that Roark had the face of a god. And Kiki Holcomb's flabbergasted. She goes, good looking. What, are you kidding, Dominique? He's not good looking at all. And Dominique realizes that she learned something about herself, that what to her was the most obvious thing in the world, other people would entirely miss. But when Dominique sees him for the first time, she recognizes Roark has the face of a god. And in that first moment, she gives herself to Roark, her full love, body and soul, to Roark for the rest of her life. Her love belongs to Roark. This is what makes Dominique such an exquisite character, for all of her errors and for all of the contortions that she goes through. She is an impassioned idealist who recognizes Roark from the first moment. Why she resists? Because there's no world for the kind of man she could love. Remember, after Roark leaves, she asks the superintendent, the foreman of the granite quarry, where is he? He left, and she feels relieved. Oh, thank God. Now I don't have to see him again because I'm so drawn to this guy. I want him so bad. Oh, by the way, notice after the so-called rape, she draws the bath to take a bath. Ayn Rand knows full well that if a woman's actually a rape victim, she's been foully violated. She wants to bathe and bathe and bathe as if she could wash away the touch, of the foul violation. Dominique draws the water in the bath and then refuses to get in the tub. She sleeps all night on the cold tiles of the bathroom floor rather than get in that tub. Because Ayn Rand also knows that a woman deeply in love, the last thing she's going to do is wash away the touch of her lover. Dominique would rip your face off if you tried to put her in that tub. She'd kill you. She would kill you if you tried to get her in that tub. She is a dangerous woman. So the face of a God, but there's no room in this world for a God. And Dominique doesn't want to be involved. She wants him desperately, but she can't allow herself to. So she sets it up and then fights it. She can't allow herself to have this. And by the way, the started temple trial is Dominique's worst nightmare come true because she knew this was going to happen. She said it was in some form this was going to happen. That the world is going to destroy Roark. They're going to tear. He's going to create some masterpiece. They're going to tear it down, and she's going to be in agony over it. Agony. She's in much deeper agony than Roark is. Roark tells her over this. It's a pain that only goes down to a certain point, and then it stops. To him, his self-esteem is based on building on what he can do. It hurts that they destroy his baby, but his self-esteem is unaffected by this. But for Dominique, it's crushing. It's all-inclusive agony. It reaffirms her view of the world and that what she loves will be destroyed. And she's thinking to herself, I knew this was going to happen. I knew it was going to happen, and I still let myself get involved with it. What an idiot I am. And so she marries Keating in the attempt to kill off her capacity for hero worship. But if you want to kill off hero worship, what better to do than immerse yourself in the life of Keating? The only thing more effective would be to marry Toohey. But Toohey's asexual, so she can't. So that's why Dominique resists Roark in the Granite Quarry, because he is everything she loves, everything she wants. He is the hero, or the god, if you will, that she desperately loves, and there's no place in the world for such a man. She cannot allow herself to have that relationship, but she wants it. She wants the relationship in the worst possible way. Notice two last points quickly. Notice when she does meet, when she finds out later that Roark was the designer of the Enright House, which she recognizes as a masterpiece immediately. She is not surprised. She is not surprised that Roark did this. She knew at some subconscious level that Roark was was a god, so it doesn't surprise her. And two, of course, later on she marries him. I doubt Ayn Rand believes that rape victims marry the rapists. So, rape by engraved invitation. Dominique likes to think of it as rape because of her own peculiar, psychology here. She likes to think of, she wants to be overpowered by this, her resistance being overpowered. But she knows better than anybody that how desperately she wanted Roark and continues to. All right, let's move on. Dominique's fascinating. I love her, but we got other things we got to do. Wynand is also a fascinating character, and shares an important premise with Dominique. Now, Wynand, of course, the great tragic hero of the Fountainhead. For purposes of this presentation, I'm going to stress his flaws, but Wynand has enormous virtues we have to recognize, which is the reason why Roark loves him, and it's love at first sight, by the way. It's not romantic love, but it is love. The first time they meet, you go back and read that scene early in Part 4. The first time they meet, they look at each other. Boom! There's just this profound recognition. And Roark comes into the Wynand building for his interview with Wynand. He's going to reject Wynand's offer to build the private home. And isn't it great? What a great plot element that Wynand wants to hire Roark to build a home as a fortress to protect his wife from the world. And so who does he hire? The only man in the world that he has to fear. What a great plot! What a great plot writer Ayn Rand is. She's a brilliant plot writer. But Roark has particular reason to disdain and dislike Wynand. One, he's Dominique's husband. He's the man married to the woman he loves. Two, on his deathbed, Henry Cameron, his spiritual father, warns him against Wynand. Cameron says it's the Wynand Papers, Howard. What Cameron calls, they represent what Cameron calls the triumph of overbearing vulgarity. There's the Post, it's the banners about the people, evidently millions of them, who prefer stories of axe murderers. Some guy in the Bronx chopped up his wife and kids with an axe. That goes on the front page of the Post, with a banner. while the same day some guy discovers a cure for cancer, and that's maybe doesn't make the newspaper at all, but it's the triumph of overbearing vulgarity, this catering is not the word, this pandering to the lowest, most vulgar taste of people. This is what Roark's going to have to fight, and that's why Dominique married Wynand in the first place, right? She says to become Mrs. Wynand Papers, she says, when Wynand proposed to him, again, Keating wasn't a scoundrel enough to kill off Dominique's capacity for hero worship. She doesn't know Wynand yet, but the editor of the publisher of the Wynand Papers maybe is a sufficient scoundrel. So she marries him, as the second worst scoundrel she could find, Toohey being the worst. So Roark has particular reason to dislike Wynand and to tell him to go to hell when Wynand makes him an offer. And yet, when Roark is so first-handed, he's so independent that when he meets Wynand, he recognizes something. And Ayn Rand obviously believes in love at first sight. It's in every one of her novels. I mean, every one. When Reardon sees Dagny on the flat, he hasn't even spoken to her yet. He's ready to have sex with her. There's just this recognition, of the virtues that her heroes illustrate. And so Roark recognizes immediately that Wynand is special. And what makes Wynand special, of course, is that he was not born to be a second-hander. There's an enormous first-handed or independent element. And when Wynand rises out of the slums of Hell's Kitchen by means of his own brilliant creativity, creates an empire in journalism, he creates an empire in real estate, he's an enormously creative, life-giving individual. But, of course, he's a mixed case. The reason why he's a tragic hero is he's a mixed case in this story between independence and dependence, between first-handedness and second-handedness. So let's take a look at the dark side of Wynand's character, because at one level, to understand Wynand's character, we need to recognize him as a Nietzschean kind of egoist. And early in Ayn Rand's life, she was attracted to the writings of Friedrich Nietzsche. It didn't take her long to realize that Nietzsche rejected reason. Nietzsche's an irrationalist, and so she rejected Nietzsche. But at an emotional level, and in his poetry, Nietzsche has a great feel for man the hero, for the heroic capacity or potential in human beings that Ayn Rand was certainly very attracted to. But let's take a look at the dark side of Wynand's character, because he grows up in the harsh slums of Hell's Kitchen, just about 5 blocks west of where we are, in the Roosevelt, west of 8th Avenue to the river in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. The streets, I mean, not the decades. Wynand was born, late 19th century? Wynand grows up in these slums. By the way, it reminds me one of my favorite scenes in one of Hollywood's great movies, Casablanca, when the Bogart character, what's his name, Rick Blaine, was that his name? Rick Blaine, was that his name? Rick Blaine? He came from Hell's Kitchen. That's where he came out. He mentions it at one point in the movie. And the Nazi character's talking about, when we march triumphantly through the streets of Paris, will you respect us or whatever. So what about when we march through the streets of New York? He says, and Bogart says, Colonel, he says, there's some neighborhoods in New York I don't advise you to march through. He's from Hell's Kitchen, just like Wynand. Now, Wynand, of course, accepts the law of this jungle, and that is that one rules or is ruled, eats or is eaten, conquers or is conquered. And Wynand chooses to rule, to eat, to conquer. And as the only choice, as he understands it, within the cultural milieu of his upbringing, this is almost an understandable error. He's so permeated with this idea that there are either either you swim with the sharks or you're eaten by them. There's either the perpetrators or the victims. And one last point that I think semi-legitimizes Wynand's quest for power.